Welcome to Sevier Heights. If it's your first time with us online, we're so glad that you dropped by. And if you're here to watch a past message, you're in the right place. If you have questions about giving, next steps, or you just want to learn more about who we are, click the link in the description or just visit us at sevierheights.org. Thanks so much for being here. Let's jump into Sunday's message.
Well, it's good to be back this week. For those that don't know, this summer I've taken a little bit of time away and have enjoyed it tremendously. I've also enjoyed streaming in to listen to some of our guys on staff, some of our great teachers communicate. And Tyler, Greg, Doug, you've done a phenomenal job. I've also spent some time getting to know some new people. I told this story at the 9 o'clock service. Ran into this gentleman in between services. He said, "That's not how it went." I said, "So I'm telling it anyway." Let me tell you a story. So a couple weeks ago, I was with a few guys, and new families are coming to the church in the summer, moving this direction. I can't wait for fall. Everybody just hold tight. It'll be incredible. But this family's been coming, and he was encouraging me about services. They've been coming as a family for a few weeks. And he said, "We really enjoyed it." And I'm like, "That's great." And he said, "But we really enjoyed the guy before you." Now, he meant it nice, all right, I promise. He said it didn't really go that way. I'm telling you it went that way, and he's here. But it's one of the things that I do take joy and pride in is we have an incredible team that's here that gets to teach in all kinds of different areas. So the parents in the room that have middle school and high school kids, these people are teaching on a strategic basis all the time, and it's good to periodically let them, allow them, and gift them an opportunity to teach here. And I'm going to be here a couple more weeks, and then I'm going to celebrate our 25-year wedding anniversary with my bride. We're going to get away for a little bit. Excited about that. Thank you. Half the people clap and half you don't care. It's all right. And then I'm back here until October. And so for those that don't like, get over it, and we'll tell you another church. All right. Today, I want to do something a little different. I want to continue the conversation that Greg picked up on last week. And I'd like for us to look at a couple aspects this week and next week in the life of David that are pretty familiar with most of us in this room. Most of us in this room have dealt with plans or some hopes or some dreams that we thought that we were counting on that never really happened. And for many in this room, perhaps it was something you did to keep it from happening. Maybe it's something that someone else or a group of someone else's did to keep it from happening. Maybe it's even, I've got one of these for me. Maybe it was some advice that someone gave you that you loved and you trusted. They gave you some good advice and you took it, and it actually took you a place that you never wanted to be. Every person in this room's got those. Some of them are small, like they happened perhaps in high school. You had these ideas in college, and you thought it was a big idea at the time, but it's really not that big a deal because now you're 30 or 40 and you're like, yeah, it didn't matter. But some of them were big, and you're still living with them. And you realize this, on behalf of my dream, this will never come true. Like you wake up one morning and you realize, okay, this is never going to happen. It won't come true. And so you're sitting there thinking, okay, what is it that I've got to do? How do I respond? How do I navigate these situations ahead? For some of you, here's what it looks like. It's significant. It's the end of your first marriage. Like you see the handwriting on the wall. It's tense. And the arguments used to go like maybe once a month, but now they're getting often, and you're even going to bed and not talking and going to bed in the other room, and you're like, this isn't trending well. Some of you in this room, you're divorced and you're single again. And just like the person that's about to get divorced, you're thinking, man, when I said I do, I thought I would spend the rest of my life with this person, but I'm realizing that that's not the same. And now you, if you're single again, you're thinking, okay, this is a new stage of life that I never thought that I would taste again. Or perhaps this plan, this idea, this dream that you had, it's tied to a child. And you realize we're not going to be able to have a child of our own. Or maybe you've got multiple kids and you're pregnant, and the 3 kids that you've got are girls, and you find out you're pregnant and you're hoping for a boy, but you're finding out that it's another girl. And other people might laugh. But to you, honestly, it's really not that funny because you like a boy. Maybe it's tied to a child and the fact that a child, and you're older, your child, your son or daughter, is never going to come home again. They're not going to change. They're going to continue to run further. And in your mind, from this day forward, vacations will never look like you hoped, like you dreamed. Or maybe for some of you, it's the fact that you won't be married by the time you're 25, 30, 35, 36, 37. I mean, in your brain, you had these hopes, these dreams, these ideas that not only would you be married by now, but you'd be married and with kids. For others in this room, it's quite surprising. Your dream, your plan, you never really talked about it, but now you're realizing your parents won't be getting back together. Like you never talked about that dream because you always imagined your parents together, but now that you're gone, now that life's changed for some reason, they've grown apart and they've decided to make it public, and you're sitting here navigating with the rest of your family. What are we gonna do on Christmas? What will we do for holidays, and how much time will we spend there? Many of us in this room, all of us in this room, in some form or fashion, we've got these ideas on things that we hoped would happen, we dreamed would happen, we planned to happen, and they don't. And sometimes it's a sudden it doesn't. Sometimes it's a gradual it doesn't. And to make matters worse, what happens is it seems to be working out for most of the people around you. Like they're taking nice vacations and you can't afford one. She got another new car, it smells like leather. And yours smells like family, right? She's dating, engaged. She's getting married. You'd love to be in a wedding of your own. You find yourself in everyone else's wedding. They're having kids. Their kids are going on vacations with them. Their kids want to be around. I'm telling you, when it's going well for others, it just seems to magnify the sense that ours isn't. The amazing thing about all these examples is the Bible speaks specifically into issues like this. And for the next couple of weeks, I want us to take a peek. And like I said earlier, I'd like to pick up the conversation where Greg left off, and I want to spend a couple weeks looking at the life of David and a couple significant stories represented in chapters in the Old Testament where David realized something that he planned, something that he hoped, it wasn't going to become a reality. Now, here's what I could do. I could go to the first or the second story. I could do that this week. But the problem with that story is David makes some great decisions. He does the right thing. And if I were to share that story with you today, and you're new to church, and that's one of the beautiful things about this church, is we've got so many people that are giving church, giving Jesus a chance. If I were to tell you that story, you'd say, in light of what your story is, of course you're going to tell me that. That's a Bible story. It's like a myth. It's like a legend. It's George Washington and the cherry tree. By the way, I had to work on that so many times because this week when I practiced, I kept saying George Jefferson and the cherry tree, but it's George Washington and the cherry tree. Like, Tim, if you really knew what I was dealing with, you wouldn't give that example because it's not that copy and paste situation. Like, my story's real. So here's what I want to do. I don't want to go over that story yet. We're going to wait till next week with that story because David does the right thing. What I want to do this week is look at an earlier story in David's life, one that people don't often look at. In fact, it's a colossal failure. It's one of those stories that he won't shake the rest of his life. It's one of those stories where he realized, okay, this doesn't seem to be panning out, and David decides to compromise. He cuts corners. David does something in this story that he would never advise anyone else to do. He lowers his values. The most committed man after God's own heart does things that are nothing like a man after God's own heart. And here's the deal. If we're honest, it's a mirror image of some of the things that we struggle with. So if you have your Bibles today, I want you to open to 1 Samuel 21. And let me give you a brief catch up into this story. At the time in Israel, there's a king named Saul. God's made it obvious because of Saul's decisions that Saul's no longer going to be king. Everybody's wondering who's next. There's a prophet named Samuel that's going to anoint the next king, and he finds this family that's obscure in this little town. It's got 7 boys, but None of the boys that you think would be king are going to be king, and Samuel anoints the youngest. His name's David, and David's going to be the next king. David goes back to the field to tend sheep because he realizes, okay, this could be some far-fetched thing. I don't really think it's going to happen. Saul's got a son named Jonathan. He's got to be the next king. Well, through a strategic series of events, God orchestrates some things where David becomes an intern for the palace. In other words, he kind of moves into the White House and takes care, plays music, does some things for King Saul. Well, over time, David continues to make trips, and one day he's taking some food from his dad to his brothers who are now working in the Israelite army. And as David goes there, the Philistines, kind of like Israel's arch enemy, it's almost like the Klingons, they're in war with the Israelites, all right? What David realizes is there's a giant at the bottom of the valley that's talking trash concerning the Israelite God. David's bothered, wonders why no one's doing a thing. David speaks up, everybody kind of rolls their eyes, but David gets pushed forth into the battle. And all of a sudden, this intern becomes a celebrity. He kills Goliath. And as a gift, King Saul decides to give his daughter to David in marriage. As you can imagine, the nation's writing songs about David. David's become the popular one. But there's a problem. Saul begins to get jealous. What's strange is David and Saul's son Jonathan become very close friends, and it becomes obvious over the time that Jonathan's really not interested in being the next king. And so all of a sudden, David started to realize, you know what? When Samuel anointed me to be the next king, maybe it's going to happen. But Saul's livid. And Saul now, something clicks, and Saul wants David dead. And all of a sudden, David realizes this whole thing, this dream, this idea that he would be the next king, in a moment, it's been taken from him. And not only will he not be the next king, according to his perspective, there's a good chance he's not even going to live to see the next day. Now, here's what I want to do. That's the context. I want to pause for a second. Because as I was studying this passage of Scripture, looking at the similarities between David's story and ours, every one of us in this room deals with emotions that are very obvious in this story, that are powerful emotions. Emotions when things don't go like we hoped, like we planned, like we dreamed. And these emotions have the power to take us and to turn our back on God, to cause us to do things, to say things that we never thought we'd do, the things that we never thought that we would say. If you got a pen, if you got your phone, I think it's worth writing these down, because anytime you feel these, it's a good chance something dangerous is ahead. The emotions that show up in this story are fear, loneliness, anger, and rejection. And these are all because David thought, he hoped, he dreamed, he planned to be king. And in a moment, it's been taken. Fear, what's that emotion like? It's that feeling that you don't know what the future holds. And you're scared it doesn't look good. Loneliness, it's that nagging feeling. You realize you could be in a crowd of people and still feel lonely. It's that nagging feeling you can't shake, where you're not even looking forward to tonight at 10 o'clock because you know the amplified feelings of being alone, even in settings where you don't want to be alone. Anger. Anger is that whole concept where you are so upset, you want to do something to someone to get them back. And matter of fact, like in your weak moments, there are times you even entertain ideas of doing things that are hurtful. And then, of course, there's rejection. It's that feeling every one of us gets when someone we love, someone that we're close to, hurts us deeply. Well, since David's dream of the future and his hopes and his plans of being the next king have been taken, you're going to find out in the story these emotions are present. And these four emotions, left unchecked for all of us, but you're going to see with David, will cause us to do things we never dreamed. In fact, it'll cause David to do something that he never dreamed. So let's find out what happens in 1 Samuel 21, verse 1. The story picks up here, and David is on the run. He's hiding from Saul, and he finds himself in a town called Nob. Now, let me tell you about Nob. Nob is a town where the nation of Israel takes care of their priests. All the priests, their wives, and their families live in this town. So 1 Samuel 21, verse 1, David went to the town of Nob to see Ahimelech the priest. Ahimelech trembled when he saw David. "Why are you alone?" he asked, "and why is no one with you?" It's like the governor of Tennessee or the president of the United States showing up at your house. That's why he trembled. Meaning he's all by himself. There's no SUVs, no one speaking into their collar, into their sleeve. It's like, why are you here and all by yourself? He continues, David responds, the king has sent me on a private matter. He told me not to tell anyone why I'm here. So David brings Ahimelech in on a lie. It's because David, his plans have changed and his emotions are at an all-time high. He's afraid, he's isolated, he's alone, he's angry, and he feels rejected. And his emotions are starting to take over. Well, what he does is he takes innocent Ahimelech that just knows that David's a celebrity, and Ahimelech's wondering, okay, why are you here by yourself? And he tells him a lie. So he brings him into the story. Verse 2, David says, I've told my men where to meet me later. Now, what do you have to eat? Give me 5 loaves of bread or anything else that you have. And at this moment, Ahimelech should have gotten suspicious, right? The most famous man, honestly, with momentum in the nation, and he's all by himself in Nob. No men, no food, asking for immediate food. And Ahimelech realizes we don't have any immediate food, but wait a minute, we do. But it's a certain bread that's been set apart for use in the temple. So Ahimelech says this, we don't have any regular bread, David, but there is the holy bread. It's called the bread of presence. It's bread that you can have if you and your young men have not slept with any women recently. Like David, you know about this bread. It's been set apart for God. It's called the bread of presence. And on the 7th day, the priest is supposed to eat this bread as a dedication to God on behalf of the people. And Ahimelech makes this decision because it's David. He's like, all right, David, we're going to decide you are on some religious trip. And we're going to give you this bread. But you and your guys, you've not been doing anything wild lately, have you? Verse 5, don't worry, David replied. I never allow my men to be with women when we're on a campaign. And since they stay clean even on ordinary trips, how much more on this one? Of course, Ahimelech, no worries. And David lies to get the food. It's crazy. He gets this bread and it's a reminder of God's provision, God's presence, God's protection. And David's emotions are so high. I get it. He's on the run. That it doesn't even cause him to pause. He puts it in the bag and he gets ready to head out. Well, there's an interesting footnote in this next verse that will show itself later. Pay close attention. Verse 7, now Doeg, the Edomite, King Saul's chief herdsman, was in Nob that day, having been detained before the Lord. Meaning, if there was a soundtrack to this movie, it's like it would be tense right now. The camera would zoom over into the direction of Doeg. And here's Doeg, this loyal servant, this loyal shepherd for King Saul. And for some reason, he's in Nob. Perhaps he's spending time with the priest. Maybe he's had a sickness and the priests are going to give him the thumbs up or thumbs down on being ready to go back home. But for some reason, he's there. And he observes David and Ahimelech having a conversation. He can't hear it, but he watches it. Now, as David grabs the bread, before he leaves, he looks back at Ahimelech and says one more thing. Verse 8, David asked Ahimelech, hey, do you have a spear or a sword? The king's business was so urgent that I didn't even have time to grab a weapon. Ahimelech could have thought, you didn't have time to have a weapon? You don't even have a weapon? Let me get this straight. No men, no food, and you're on a mission from the king, and here you are asking a priest who's not known for weapons. You're asking a priest for a weapon. Ahimelech's response, I only have the sword of Goliath, the Philistine, whom you killed. You do remember Goliath, right? David, we've got that sword. It's wrapped in a cloth behind the ephod. Take that if you want it, for there's nothing else here. Now, can you imagine like the drama of this part of the story? Ahimelech probably turns his back and he goes into some back room. And as he walks to the back room, he goes to a series of rooms and comes across the ephod and unwraps a sword. And David had seen that sword, but it had been years since he'd seen that sword. The last time he saw this, it was in the hands of a giant. Can you imagine the drama of this moment as David is handed a sword? Keep in mind, David's on the run. Even though God's appointed him, God's made a promise that he would be the next king. David's on the run for his life. His emotions are so high, right? Remember those emotions? Like fear, emotions like anger, loneliness, rejection. And then he sees this sword. If David were to pause in this moment and to reflect back, this sword, on behalf of David's fear, it's a reminder of what a teenager with God could do that a seasoned warrior without God couldn't do. Think back to the story. And if God took care of him then, he can take care of him now. Not only that, understand this, on behalf of his times of loneliness, like right now, this sword is a reminder that even though no one was with you when you were fighting Goliath in that valley, David, you weren't alone. And David, right now, you're on the run. You feel like no one's with you, but you're still not alone. And this sword was a reminder on behalf of the anger. Part of the problem is you're not getting what you want, David, and you want to be king, and right now you're afraid that it's not going to happen. You realize in the book of James, the half-brother of Jesus, makes a statement. He says, do you know what the source of the quarrels and fights are among you? Like every time there's a fight, every time there's a quarrel in family, at work, whatever, he said, do you know what the problem is? Every time you want something, but you can't get it. And in this situation, it's like, that's the source of our anger. And he's letting David know, David, you're experiencing these emotions of anger because on behalf of this idea of being king, this sword should be a reminder. Like, you want something and you think you're not gonna get it. And David, concerning the rejection, this sword is another reminder, you don't need unnecessary baggage. You don't need this. It'll just slow you down. And David should have paused in that moment. But instead we read this. There's nothing like it, David replied. Give it to me. So David escaped from Saul and went to King Achish of Gath. In other words, God was trying to let David know, David, this sword is simply a reminder of our finest moment. And I'm still with you. You don't need that sword. But David let his emotions get the most of him in this story. He tells lie after lie after lie. And instead of pausing and being reminded of this sword by God's faithfulness, he grabs the sword and he places his hand on a weapon. If you think about it, a weapon belonging to Goliath that was useless when God was on the other side of the conflict. And David grabbed it to try to control the story. I think this is a good reminder for all of us in this room, whatever our story is, when hopes, dreams, plans, they've not panned out, our fault, someone else's fault, a combo of the two, and emotions get high, it's a reminder that if we're not careful and emotions take control, we're living as if there's no connection between today's decisions that we make, like David, and tomorrow's experiences. I think it's interesting that later on, David's own son Solomon would write these words, and I can't help but think, did he write them on behalf of some of his dad's bad choices? Proverbs 27, verse 12, Solomon said, the prudent see danger and they take refuge. As you think about it, you could say the prudent feel danger. They recognize they feel afraid. They feel alone. They feel angry. They feel rejected, and then they take refuge in God. But the passage continues, but the simple keep going and they suffer for it. Do you know how David suffered for this chapter in his life? You remember Doeg, the footnote? Doeg goes and has a conversation with Saul. He says, look, found David, he's in Nob. And he and Ahimelech have been talking. I watched them. Couldn't hear what they were saying, but I watched them. Saul immediately, he's livid, takes his army and he shows up in the town of Nob. He asked Ahimelech, the priest, who was innocent, but got pulled in because of David's lie. He asked the priest, have you been helping David? And he said, absolutely, he's your son-in-law. And as a result of that decision, Saul had Ahimelech and 85 other priests in the town of Nob put to death that day, all their wives and all their children. And it went back to David's lie, cutting corners to still maintain control, doing something that he thought was best because honestly, the emotions got the most of him. All of us in this room have got situations ahead of us similar to David's. And you know, if things aren't going right for you now this week, I'm telling you something will happen around the corner. And when it happens, I'm telling you these four emotions will feel heavy. Like afraid, anger, rejected, and super alone. And left unchecked, they can cause us to make the worst decisions possible. David never dreamed this would happen. And can you imagine carrying that with you the rest of your life? I mean, you think about it. There will be opportunities ahead, and some of you are facing them right now, where you're thinking, all right, here's a chance to lie. But you got to think, okay, do you remember where it got you the last time you lied? And the beautiful thing about telling the truth is you don't have to remember what you said. Understand, God's got you. You don't have to lie to gain control. Or how about this? Here's an opportunity to cheat. I mean, it'll get you ahead. You're neglected. You're rejected. You're overlooked at home. But do you remember where it took your former coworker? Here's a chance to cut corners, like maybe even financially. But do you remember where it led before? Like how hard it was and how buckled down your family was to financial and slavery? Or here's your window to get even. It's perfect. But do you really want to carry that with you? Here's your opportunity to finally meet someone, ladies. And it's not the guy you've been praying for, but man, it's close. Do you realize where this really ends up? And when you add those emotions to the equation, it clouds our judgment. And it causes us to do things that we never intended. Usually when we end a service, I say something like this: hey, why don't we bow our head and close our eyes? But today, here's what I want to encourage you to do. Heads up and eyes opened. I just want you to see you're not alone. I want to ask for a show of hands, and you're going to see mine, so hopefully that'll encourage you. If you right now are in the middle of a dream that just, it's not going to come true. It's something you plan, something you hope for, and you're stuck and you don't know what to do. If you're dealing with emotions tied to that, like anger, fear, loneliness, rejection, will you do me a favor? Heads up, eyes open, everyone looking around. Would you raise your hand? Mine's up. Look around. Hands down. I just want you to know if this story is about a man after God's own heart, and those emotions got unchecked, and he did some of the stupidest thing imaginable by telling a lie, and it just grew and grew and grew. He never would have told anybody that advice. I want you to think what's at stake with your current emotional status. Like with the thing that you placed all your hopes and dreams in that it would happen, it's not going to happen. And I want today to be a little bit of a reminder for you and I to start moving in the right direction of healing. I know so many stories in this room right now. Heavy stories. Parents, marriages, students. Dreams have collapsed and you're still here. And I just want to praise you and applaud you for it. Because I know there are moments that you are extremely hurt, you're extremely afraid. You feel alone. And so here's what I want to do. In this moment, with heads bowed and eyes closed, I would like to pray something specific that I've been praying all week in this prayer. That God will answer it specifically and give you a glimpse of hope today. Heavenly Father, you know our pain. You know our frustration. And even though we're in church on a Sunday, if we're honest, we're frustrated with you because you could have kept something from happening. You could have kept someone from leaving. You could have got us that job. But whatever it is, God, we're a little frustrated with you if we're honest. So God, some here doubt your interest in them. Some question your love for them. And some wonder about your faithfulness. And so God, I want to ask you to do something. Would you please bring to our minds something that reminds us of your past faithfulness? Just like Goliath's sword for David. God, will you bring it to our mind right now? Something you've done, something that took place in our past, to remind us you're faithful. It could be a song, a journal entry, a picture, a memory, a note or a letter, a text, a test result, a voicemail. God, right in this moment, in the quietness of this moment, there's something in our homes that's a reminder of your faithfulness in our past. A reminder that you were there for us then, and that you came through for us. And when that thing happened, we knew you were actively involved. God, somewhere in our past, there is a sword, and we've forgotten, and consequently we doubt. So would you please bring that image to our mind today? The reminder that God has been faithful to me. And God, give us the courage right now to begin to trust you, so we can watch you demonstrate your faithfulness on behalf of us again.
Can we stand and sing? Great is thy faithfulness, O God, my Father. There is no shadow of turning with thee. Thou changest not, thy compassions, they fail not. As thou hast been, thou forever will be. We sing. Great is thy faithfulness. Great is thy faithfulness. More Summer and winter, springtime and harvest, sun, moon, and stars in their courses above, join with all nature in manifold witness to thy great faithfulness, mercy, and love. Oh, great is thy faithfulness, great is thy faithfulness. Morning by morning, new mercies I see, and all I have needed thy hand hath provided. Great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto me. Pardon for sin and the peace that endureth, thine own dear presence to cheer and to guide, strength for today and bright hope for tomorrow. Blessings all mine and 10,000 beside. Oh, great is thy faithfulness, great is thy faithfulness. Morning by morning, new mercies I see, and all I have needed thy hand hath provided. Great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto me. Come on, one more time, just our voices, we sing. Great